Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're bringing back onto the show Ransel Potter. He's founder and managing partner over at C3 Summit International, the Davos of healthcare. Ransel, welcome back to the show.
I'm delighted and honored to be back, especially with you as the host. Thank you.
Oh man, so we got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to get into the importance of maintaining trust in the age of AI and also talk about some innovations. So excited to get into that. And of course, we'll talk more about C3 Summit and what's going on there. But before we do all that, Ransel, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Ransel, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, for executives, for experts. That's what we do. Ransel, what mission matters to you?
Bringing to the audience and to the community knowledge that can be transferred and put to use in every day to help people in terms of their own challenges.
It's great. Love bringing mission-based individuals on the line to share how they do what they do, what they're doing, and really what we can all learn from this so we grow together. So again, great having you back on. To get us kicked off here, I think we should start with, for some of the, we've been blessed. The show's growing. We have lots of new listeners and viewers. Let's start with C3 Summit. Let's get into that a little bit and really how that started and where all that began for you.
Well, that's a great question, and I don't really like talking about myself. There are things far more interesting, but I'll certainly take the lead on that. It started in 2012, and it really was by accident almost. I was at Morgan Stanley, and as all things happened, it was the time when it was wealth preservation, not investment. And I was on the side of the world where we all are eat what you kill, but we got awarded on the assets that we brought in. And frankly, because it was really about preservation and not investment, I couldn't get any assets, and I had 6 children, still do have 6 children, but they were smaller. And I had an Arab American in my portfolio, and I was really kind of complaining, if you will, about how difficult it was to get assets in that environment. And he said, well, you should come to Bahrain. And I said, well, what will I do in Bahrain? He said, we're having the first Bermuda-Bahrain Economic Forum, and we'd like you to speak. And I said, well, what will I speak about? And he said, we don't care. We just want the Morgan Stanley moniker. And I said, okay, that works for me. But I went over to Bahrain, and I fell in love with it.
What year was this roughly, just roughly?
It was 2012. I can tell you exactly.
2012. Okay, go ahead.
Well, actually, it was 2011 because the first one we had was 2012. So I went in 2011, and I came back, and Bahrain is really, it's all changed now, unfortunately. It's an unfortunate situation, but it was, I always called it the Bermuda of the Middle East. It was welcoming, it was warm. And so I came back, and in fact, they have the 7th Fleet there, which is the largest fleet in the world. It's our fleet. And I came back, and I told my wife, I said I was going to quit Morgan Stanley. And she was at the breakfast table when I walked in after the red eye, and she said,
young kids, okay, go ahead.
She said, no, you're not. And I said, no, I am. And she said, well, what do you think you're going to do? And I said, I think I'd like to start a healthcare summit. And now, keep in mind, Adam, I'm from 4 consecutive generations of doctors, but I can't stand the sight of blood. And she would take the children to the ER room and also to the doctor when there was a need. I couldn't do it. So she said, well, how do you think you're going to do this? And I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. Yeah. And so at the time, and I still do, I have a home in the Hamptons, and President Clinton summered across from me. And I saw him walking the dogs. He was with Helly, he was with Chelsea, but there was no Secret Service. And I thought, that's it. That's the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I started crossing the causeway there, and all of a sudden, now I know why they call them moles. They came popping up over everything, everywhere, and it's like, where is hiding? Right? And I said, no. I said, I live right across the street. I just want to talk to President Clinton. And I go, let him come. So I went over and I told him what I wanted to do. And really, in the span of 10 minutes, it's like he said, do you have an inaugural speaker? And I said, I don't. And he said, I'm going to do you the biggest favor of your life. He said, I'm going to be your inaugural speaker. And that's really how it started. And so, because of that, we since brought on the State Department. We have brought on the United Nations. We're part of UNGA, UN General Assembly Week, which is really an accomplishment I'm very proud of, because it brings in the world to New York and gridlocks us for 2 weeks, but I'm okay with that. I can, and it really, because they cross promote us. The collaboration is that we hold our September summit the day before, which is Monday. They always have the first Tuesday. So we have the Monday before, because they use us then to basically cross-promote for delegates that are coming in for the long weekend or for the day. And for that reason, we get upwards to 52 countries that are represented by people attending that come through. So since then, we've established the footprint. We've been in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia for 10 of the now 15 years. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Where does it go? We were in Bahrain, which was wonderful, obviously. And we have since opened up China. That was pre-COVID. Now we're looking at going back. We did Tokyo last year, which was amazing. And that's really the span of what we've been doing. And I'd like to thank the world leaders. This year we had Leon Panetta in California, and he was terrific. And then for September, we have Wilbur Ross coming back as the keynote. And we also have General Petraeus, who is going to be doing his 4th consecutive keynote at C3. He really enjoys it. And he's being interviewed by Sam Waxel, and he is amazing. So the lineup is great. We've had wonderful speakers because of President Clinton, Henry Kissinger before he passed, God love him. And I'll never forget when Dr. Kissinger was coming. We hold it at the Union League Club in New York. And I don't like to note this, but I'm now I'm a lifetime member, so I better have a long life left. But when I first met with with Dr. Kissinger, the advance team said, he's coming through the door, you have to come down to meet him. I said, of course. So I went down, and he was holding his hand with one aide's help and then the other on a cane, and through the door. And I said, Dr. Kissinger, I am so honored to have you here. And he went like this to me, and I leaned in, and he said, and what am I here for? I said, Dr. Kissinger, you are fine. Just get up there and give your best. And he did, and he brought everybody, to their feet. Standing ovation. But
oh my gosh, what an amazing story! And so as you've been on this journey building this, I'm just curious, and what a great story. I love to hear things like that. I'm curious now, as it's in the news a lot, obviously, a lot of conversations about it, but like AI, and thinking about AI and innovation, and how all of this, like the way I see it, is still the in-person, like what you're describing, all those relationships. To me, that's still the core, but I don't feel like we talk about that enough. So what do you feel like this thought process of even trust or those relationships mean in this new age of AI?
Well, that's a great question, Adam. And I think it's still unfolding. But I think the one basic for the foundation of AI in healthcare is that it's got to provide compassion as well as expertise. And it can't replace the compassion. It's still a one-to-one. The bedside manner. I remember my father would take us on rounds, and he was always about very much focusing on bedside manner, because it is a little, jolting and unnerving to be in a hospital. And
absolutely,
people understand that. So to introduce something as technologically advanced as AI, without, basically transferring and making sure that people understand that the technology is really there to improve accuracy and to reduce any kind of administration burdens or physician burdens. That's really what it is, because it still takes the human to navigate and push the AI. So I think people are losing sight that AI is really going to be a tool. It's not going to replace the doctor, the physician. It's not going to replace the bedside manner, but it can help reduce errors. And there are errors that are made. People get misdiagnosed all the time. I just saw that, it's now AI is looking at, being able to diagnose all different forms of cancer that they never knew was able to be early on, so that you don't finally see it at stage 4 where it's too late, right? So I think that I think that the physician-patient relationship
Mhm.
is above everything else. And I think AI will move accuracy, and it will improve and reduce administrative burdens
Mm.
and give physicians the chance to still remain accountable and responsible for their own actions in the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah. What do you think about, hospitals or physicians or even just the healthcare system in general, like about the responsibility to educate the patients and those using the service? Like, what do you think about that? About this new the technologies they're using?
I think that's probably one of the biggest areas where it can really be beneficial is in educating and helping people to understand what the road ahead is really about and what the challenges are about.
Mhm.
I think too often people go into a hospital and thinking that it's either going to be, my father always used to call it God's waiting room,
Mm.
which is an interesting analogy from a
Yeah,
doctor.
yeah.
That didn't give a lot of confidence, but
Yeah,
he didn't say that. He only said it to family members, but
of course.
meaning that it really is. It's a very important milestone for the hospitals to really embrace what, and I think they do. I think they do a great
Mhm.
job of it, but they can't lose the empathy that they have as doctors to any kind of technology. But they
Mm.
can embrace that technology to really try and help educate the patient, understand what really that they're facing, and
Mhm.
then try and basically put together a roadmap that they can, give them comfort because it is unnerving to go into a hospital. And I
Mm.
guess in many ways it is God's waiting room. I hope I don't have to wait. I hope I do have to wait actually. But anyway,
I ain't going there.
no, none of us are going to go there. None of us want to go there.
I know. So when we think about like the speed of technology, things like even you said different type of cancers being able to be detected early on, but that weren't able to be like even just in the recent past, like as fast as technology is moving. How do you see the balance playing out there? Because and the reason I ask this question is because you have a different vantage point. I mean, it moved through C3 Summit and the years you've been doing that, you're seeing like on a global level what's happening to healthcare everywhere, in one way, shape, or form through through all the countries that go and that are represented. So, what do you see as that, like that balance of speed versus technology, and that interplay?
That's such a great question. And I think that's still going to unravel as we
Hmm.
go forward. I don't think there's any exact, perfect answer to that. But I
Hmm.
do think that the most successful organizations, they'll be the ones that embrace the cutting edge tools
Hmm.
and be sure that they ensure the patient comfort and convenience, that the
Yeah.
patient will be heard, they'll be respected, and they'll be cared for. And I think that's what's important, that they will still be cared for by trusted healthcare professionals and institutions. I think
Mm.
once that care and once that trust is basically subjected or subjugated to the technology, I
Hmm.
think that's then where we begin to lose the empathy that we need to have between the patient
Hmm.
and between the hospital or the physician.
Yeah.
And I think they will do that. I think doctors take an oath when they
Yeah.
become, and it's an oath that I think I always remember was one that was taught to us that look at the person as you would look at yourself or a
Mm.
family member,
Mm.
and put yourself in that position. And I've always remembered that. And I think doctors that have that bedside manner, that empathy, that touch, and that they can really transfer that feeling of care to the patient and not
Mhm.
and feel that they're going to be disenfranchised. I think that's where it will really find its footing.
Mm. So I'll timestamp this one for us. So we're recording this. We're going live on June 4th, 2026. I'm curious from your end, Ransel, like as it relates to healthcare, or the entire system, technology, however you want to take this. Like, what excites you right now? What gets you motivated to get out there and to continue to, be a spokesperson and to carry the C3 flag?
That's a great question, and thank you. I think what I've seen with C3 over the last 14 years is
Hmm.
that I've brought communities together from different parts of the world. I've
Yeah.
brought people together that didn't really understand how they could really unlock the secrets that they have and share them with other people. And I think that the knowledge transfer has been probably one of the most important aspects of C3, along with the relationships that have been made. I've seen relationships that doors have been opened that never would have been opened no matter how long you knocked. And I think, C3 really, it breaks down the barriers and it makes everybody human. And they can interact with each other. They can get to people. Somebody said to me the reason they keep coming back to C3 is because they know that they would never in a lifetime be able to meet the kind of people and interact with the kind of people that they do at C3. So, that has been, to me, one of the greatest rewards. I'll tell you something that I've always opened up every one of my summits with. When President Clinton, when he launched our summit, which was amazing, and he had never launched a first-time summit because, in all fairness to him, he wanted to make sure that there were fannies in the seats. Yeah. And so I asked him, I said, President Clinton, what advice would you give an upstart summit like C3? And you know how he wags his finger like that? And he said, Ransel, 3 things. He said, don't try and be a tsunami. That will surge and subside. And I said, yes. And he said, don't try and be a wave. It will crest and crash. And I said, well, what should I be? He said, be a ripple. It just keeps gently reaching out. And I think that's really what C3 has been. It's been a ripple that has been gently reaching out for 15 years and interconnecting, and it gets bigger with bigger rings as it expands. And then I ask everybody to basically, look to the right, to the left, and it's not mine, but to shake the hand of the person they're with. And I'll tell you another great story. I had Hemi Perez, and this is pretty applicable right now, who is the son, as you know, of Shimon Peres, the former prime minister of Israel. He came to speak, and he has the biggest private equity firm in the Middle East called Patango. And one of their, it's interesting, one of their business models, and keep in mind he has a Syrian, and I think he has an Arab partner, and I think that I could have the nationalities, but they're both Arab in his partnership. And one of their models is if you can show the internet and use it to prove that you can launch a business in 5 years that is basically profitable, we will fund you under 2 conditions. We, 1, have to believe in it, and 2, you have to be of Arab nationality between the ages of 18 and 25. Well, people they got up to their feet, and here was, Hemi Perez, and at the time I called it the U.S. Arab Business Healthcare Summit. Now I've since renamed it to C3 International, but I won't tell you which diplomat it is because he's very involved right now with what's going on. But he was an Arab gentleman, and he came up to me and he said, Mr. Potter, he said, I thought this was U.S. Arab. And I said, well, it is. And he said, but you had Hemi Perez here. And I said, I did. And he said, but, and I said, but before you say anything, I saw you standing at the end of the front row, clapping harder than anybody else. And he said, that's what I wanted to tell you. Now, this was 15 years ago. He said, I realized that we can live and work side by side and be neighbors and good partners. And to me, that was one of those ripples that, I touched somebody enough that they really rethought. They had a different perspective leaving than what they had coming in. And if I can change just one person like that, Adam, then, as my father always said to all, he had 4 sons, I was one of 4, and he always said to all of us, he said, just don't take up space. And I've always thought of that, right? And, that to me is something that I can look back on as a legacy and say, I didn't just take up space. That's the one thing if I go out into that God's waiting room, I want to know that I didn't just take up space. Much like you, Adam, what you're doing is just so admirable and so impressive. And you're reaching out and touching so many people with your broadcast. And it's admirable. And you're someone to be looked up to and someone as a role model to be basically following. So, I'm grateful to you for all that you do, and you do a lot.
Well, thank you, Ransel. And I just have to ask, with all this going on, C3, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for the summit?
Well, we have the September summit coming up, September 14th. It will be here in New York City for its 14th year at the Union League Club. And you can find the website by going to c3int.org. And you can see the lineup of the speakers, you can see the agenda, and I would welcome anybody that wants to come to really join with us. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll give a complimentary code for anybody watching this, and just give me about 10 minutes once this concludes, but we'll do it for MM26. So Mission Matters 26. You enter that into the registration page and you'll get automatically a complimentary registration to come. So MM26. And give me 10 minutes at the conclusion, and I think you'll like it. As I said, Wilbur Russ is going to be there. The first 250 to sign up are going to get his personalized autographed book, which is a great book, Rewards and Risk. And I think you'll, if you haven't been, you'll enjoy it. And if you have been, you'll still enjoy it.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links and some information in the show notes so that you can check it out. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me right. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Ransel, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming back on.
Inshallah, I'm very pleased. Thank you. My pleasure.